We're here in the Oaklawn Today studios with Rick Brasher. He is our associate steward here at Oaklawn Park. We have two associate stewards, and Rick Brasher is here with us today, of course, one of three stewards each and every day judging the races. Thought this, Rick, would be a great opportunity to talk a little bit not only about an inquiry that happened last week on Arkansas Derby Day, but also talk to fans and give them a little bit of an inside look, an educational view of how stewards do their job, what the process is, and when it comes to forming an inquiry, taking in an objection from a jockey potentially, and then going over all the possibilities as to why you make the decision. So we're going to start first and foremost, Rick, we're going to talk about this inquiry coming up on the screen here. We'll take a look at three different views. We're going to look at the head-on, which is basically from the 7/8 pole tower, camera tower shot. We'll take a look at the pan shot, which is the regular shot that all of our viewers watch live during the race, and then we'll take a look at a drone shot as well. So we're taking a look here, Rick, at number 4, Donnet Normandy, who finished first. Biloba was second. He's number 5 with the green saddle towel. Donnet Normandy on the yellow saddle towel here. And Rick, just describe to us what we're taking a look at. There was an inquiry and then a jockey's objection here.
Well, any one of us three that see anything when we're upstairs, we can automatically ask for an inquiry. So all we do is tell the placing judges to post the inquiry. After we posted the inquiry, then, we have a quick official here, so all a jock has to do is go to the outrider and say he wants to file an objection. So all he has to do is tell the outrider about where this situation happened. So we got an objection filed. I think basically the objection was the incident close to the wire, but I can't recall for sure if he also mentioned the other incident that was at the head of the stretch.
So there were two separate things going on. One was at the head of the stretch where contact was made between number 4 and 5, and then very late deep stretch at the wire where the rider on number 5 stood up in the saddle. No change was made. You determined that with the 3 stewards. What factors determined this particular ruling when looking at this replay?
Well, if you look at Arkansas's rule, it's a little vague, but it does give you the, I guess, the power to determine the extent of the disqualification or whatever happened in this case. And we determined that at the top of the stretch, it was basically mutual between the 2 riders. One came out and one came in, although it appeared that Mr. Esquivel's horse might have lost some action in his hind end when all this happened. So in that incident, we determined that that was pretty much mutual. And the other incident, we determined that it was too close to the wire to have made any difference in the outcome of the race.
And of course, Mr. Esquivel, Manny Esquivel, he was on number 4, Donnet Normandy. Irad Ortiz Jr. was aboard number 5, Biloba. Obviously, Rick, you've worked in different states, and we talked about this off air a little bit, how the rules are different in different states. So here in Arkansas, we have that specific rule.
True. And so I'm not saying it's vague, it just says you're vested with the power to determine the extent of the disqualification. So we decided that there was no reason to disqualify a horse. I'm sure those people that bet on the horse that finished second don't agree with us, but you can't please everybody.
Sure, and I was speaking to you off air about in California, and I worked there for many years. I'm from California, so I'm very, very familiar with the rule over there. And if a horse is cost the opportunity of a better placing, and those are the key words, cost the opportunity of a better placing, if the stewards deem that to be the case, they may disqualify or push back the horse who impeded another horse. So obviously the rules state by state are different. It took you guys about 10 minutes to come up with decisions. In this particular decision, I should say, it took you about 10 minutes to decide no change. A lot of people, when they're at home, a lot of racing fans, you're going to watch TV, you're going to watch the angle 2-3 times, you're going to watch the replay, and you're going to have an opinion, whatever it may be. It's a peanut gallery of sorts in horse racing, so everybody's going to have an opinion. What kind of conversations are you having in the steward's booth amongst you 3 when it comes to taking that much time?
Well, I don't really know why it took us that much time. I guess it was because of the 2 incidents. I guess it was because of it being Derby Day that we wanted to make sure we were on the right, everybody was on the right keel or the right aspect of this race. So basically we looked at the incident at the top of the stretch. It took us a little while to make sure, and then we talked to both jocks. And of course, both jocks' opinions are going to be different because one thinks he was impeded and the other one doesn't think he impeded him. So, but Mr. Esquivel brought it to our attention that the back end of his horse was bothered in that race. So the thing about it is you look at it in slow motion, then you also look at it in the speed that the race was done in. So it just can't be done just quick because you want to make sure you're on the right situation, make the right call, and I'm convinced we did.
So when you say you talk to jockeys, is this something that every inquiry that's part of the process is talking to the riders on the
Correct. On an objection. Also in an inquiry, if there's not been called an objection and we're looking at something, we still want to talk to both jocks and get their opinion on what happened. Matt, a lot of times there won't be an objection called until that jock gets back and is unsaddling, and sometimes the trainer says, what happened down there? Don't you think you might ought to say something? So then a lot of times they kind of convince the jock to go to the scales and talk to us, so those things happen.
And how many different views approximately would you say you have of watching the different angles?
We have the drone, which you mentioned, which is very, very helpful. We also have the head-on. We have, I guess we have four different views. Yeah.
So different views, and you will use all of them, because I know in the public is seeing, while there's an inquiry, our track feed will show 4 different boxes.
Right.
And that's what you're looking at as well.
Correct.
One more question for you is, when it comes to after the inquiry, you make your decision. We have talked a little bit about film review that riders have. Can you tell us a little bit about how you call in riders, what kind of factors determine we're going to call in this rider and they're going to come into our office in the morning, maybe the next day, and talk a little bit and go over this race?
Okay, basically in this case, naturally Mr. Ortiz is not going to be here Thursday because we didn't have racing on Sunday, so we're not going to call them in on their days off, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. So Thursday, we asked Mr. Esquivel to come in and just look at it. Mr. Ortiz, being he's not here, he could send somebody to represent him, but and if he wants to, that's fine too. But we ask him, and then we ask all the bug boys to be present at the film reviews, to watch all that stuff with them, and maybe it'll be beneficial to their future in the racing industry.
Of course, bug boys mean apprentice riders, first-year riders.
True. I apologize.
That's the old horseman's term of bug boys. Mr. Rick Brasher, Rick, thank you so much for taking the time.
Appreciate you.
All right, folks, we have a lot of ground to cover, so let's get to it. Of course, I'm Matt Dinerman, track announcer here at Oaklawn. Big week last week. Arkansas Derby week, of course, with a number of stakes, big performances. We'll recap everything you need to know. And then we'll get to this week. We've got 2 Arkansas bred stakes, which is our feature races on the week. The Rainbow Mist for 3-year-old fillies and the Rainbow for the colts and geldings. Let's talk about our recaps first from Arkansas Derby week, Thursday through Saturday racing last week. And we kicked things off in terms of high-quality efforts and high-quality horses in race number 3 on Thursday. This was a first-level allowance for filly and mare routers at 1 1/16. Here's the replay. Nickel and Dime, very impressive, gate to wire. Got a 77 buyer for this, a little bit of a lower number, but I thought this was a really good effort from her. She got a clear lead, kicked on down the lane, very push button under jockey Rafael Bejarano for trainer Randy Morris. What a claim by Randy, claiming this gal out of a maiden claimer, and since then she is stakes placed. She only lost by about a neck in the Martha Washington to Search Party, who we saw run second in the fantasy. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Nickel and Dime getting out of those stakes waters and against a little bit easier, and really found her friends there. Also getting back to the Lasix Of course, when you're running a stake here at Oaklawn, no Lasix in those races, but this filly raced on Lasix this past start. Just thought it was a really good effort from her. She's obviously broken through that first level allowance condition. I don't know who she beat that day. It wasn't the strongest group of allowance foes, even for restricted 3-year-old fillies, but she did it the right way. And Randy Morris, remember, he's had success with fillies and mares. We think about Taxed, he won the Black-Eyed Susan with. Randy, a very good trainer, and he's got this filly going well. And obviously, not only does she have talent, and he's gotten her to really improve in form, but now she's got a little bit of value here at being stakes placed, and maybe they'll start working on trying to get a stakes win for nickel and dime out of race 3 on Thursday afternoon. Our feature race, it came up with a short group, but it was a good group of 3-year-olds at a mile. This was the Hot Springs Stakes. Here's the replay. Desert Gate for trainer Bob Baffert, adding the blinkers here, getting a 97 buyer, and really dispatching of his company, especially Soldier and Diplomat, a horse that was the runner-up in the Southwest at Grade 3 a couple months back, had a horrendous trip in the Rebel, and this horse just ran him off his feet, Desert Gate. Adding the blinkers probably helped him. I watched his replay in the mornings on XBTV. Before this race, he had worked with the blinkers, and he looked really good and much better than without the blinkers. So I'm feeling probably that this is the type of horse where those blinkers really helped him, and they're there to stay, I would imagine. But trainer Bob Baffert indicating to racing media outlets that this horse is not the type of horse maybe that he's thinking about for the Preakness, for example. He's thinking about this horse maybe staying at mile types of distances, at least for right now, in the Pat Day Mile, potentially on Kentucky Derby Day, going the one-turn mile, and that would be a great spot, I think, for this horse. A horse that broke his maiden first time out sprinting at Del Mar, one of the best Pal Stakes at Del Mar, going one turn. This horse can sprint. Obviously, he can stretch that to 2 turns. Again, this was a small field, but the horse he beat as the runner-up, Soldier and Diplomat, I thought showed, and he's a good horse. This horse made him look like just an average horse. So this was a really big effort from Desert Gate. It'll be interesting to see how he does in a race like the Pat Day Mile, but off his numbers alone, he stacks up. We go to Friday. Friday, of course, was Fantasy Day this year. 2 stakes races on the program. Race number 9 was the Matron Stakes, and we saw one of the best Arkansas-bred racers ever, as I noted in the race call, if you listen back. Holland Ice, boy, she is just fast. Loves Oaklawn, loves 6 furlongs as well. Here's the replay on that. Got a 97 buyer for this one. You know, what I liked about this was that she was close to the pace, and there was pace pressure, and she was right there and dispatched of that rival and then kicked on and won the race. Now, even though the runner-up Foie Gras, she ran very well, had won 3 in a row before this, and ran, I thought, an admirable second. Even though she was gaining on Holland Ice was geared down late. The thing about this filly, as I mentioned, she loves this track, very much a horse for course, but she's got class, and at 6 furlongs, this is a perfect distance for Safi Joseph, indicating, her trainer, that maybe turf is in the future. They tried it once. She ran second that day. Maybe getting back to the grass is something that the doctor might order here. I think she'll love 5 furlongs on the turf, 6 furlongs on the grass, but nonetheless, we know she likes dirt as well. I think the key with her is just keeping her at sprint distances. Obviously, she was facing Open Company in the Matron. I mean, this was a strong field. It was the strongest race that we have every year for filly and mare sprinters. So she's at the top of her class in that respect around here at Oaklawn against some of those shippers as well. But I think that Holland Ice ran well, obviously, and just another good effort from her as we can expect here at Oaklawn. Again, Foie Gras, the runner-up, I do want to note her. I thought she ran a really effective race in second. I mean, trainer Mike Maker's done a really good job with her, and she is just really thriving right now. I know she didn't win the race, but she showed that her last 2 races, both against Overnight Stakes Company, where she won decisively, those were no flukes. She is very much a nice filly and mare sprinter. And she is one that I don't think necessarily needs to stay at 6 furlongs. I think if they stretch her out to 7 furlongs, she's really just sort of tactical, and you can just basically put her where you want, and she can run on. We saw her doing her best work late in the game in this race here, going 6 furlongs when she was closing. So top 2 ran very well in the Matron Stakes, which is our top filly and mare sprint again for those older gals. We go to race number 11, our feature on Friday, the Fantasy. Now this race scratched to 5. There were 6 horses entered. Morning line favorite Explora, shipped here from California for trainer Bob Baffert. Of course, she won the Honeybee Stakes, and she came up with a little bit of a temperature. They had to treat her with antibiotics, so she was scratched out of this race. Bob Baffert indicating they will train her up now to the Kentucky Oaks on the first Friday in May. Still left us with a field of 5, and Counting Stars has really just turned into our top filly and mare local, or I should say 3-year-old filly here going long. Let's take a look at this replay here. Top 3-year-old filly here at Oaklawn, clearly in Counting Stars. She got a 92 buyer for this. The pace was not fast. Her stablemate Empath, who was a long shot in the race, went out there, set moderate fractions. Counting Stars sat right behind her, and Francisco Arrieta must have known that this filly had a lot of horse early in the race, put her where he wanted her to, and then at the half-mile pole he said, okay, we're just going to go. We're going to take command here. Stop dawdling around. I got plenty of horse. Let's just take control of this race and say, come and catch me, and they couldn't. Counting Stars winning for fun here pretty convincingly. Obviously, she's going to have to face a much bigger field in the Kentucky Oaks. Now, we saw her run a really good second to Explora in the Honeybee. She's run 2 very poor races just out of the blue. There were no physical excuses. We saw that happen in the Martha Washington, a race won by Search Party. Obviously, Counting Stars is the better of the two between her and stablemate Search Party, but I think the key with Counting Stars, the pace is going to be faster in the Kentucky Oaks. There's going to be a bigger field, and she needs to come mentally with her A-plus game, because there are times where she throws in a clunker where there are really no excuses other than the fact that they've come up with the conclusion that she just doesn't want to run that day. So she needs to come with her best in the Kentucky Oaks. There's going to be a lot of changes. Don't expect her to get the same type of beautiful trip that she got in the Fantasy. But clearly, she's a top filly in the 3-year-old division. Obviously, our best 3-year-old filly here at Oaklawn. And Counting Stars, good effort from her. I thought Search Party, the runner-up, she ran okay, just a second-tier type of filly in the 3-year-old filly division. She has enough points to run in the Kentucky Oaks. She'll be 20-1, 30-1 on the morning line, I'd imagine. So she will need to improve to hit the board in the Kentucky Oaks. But a nice filly who already has a stakes win and now a grade 2 placing with that runner-up finish in the Fantasy. I was disappointed in Sticker Shock, an allowance winner off a layoff for trainer Brad Cox last time out. Came into this race. And yeah, there weren't very fast fractions for her to run into. She sat towards the back, was only a few lengths behind though, and just never got into the bridle, never looked like she was traveling comfortably, and finished a well ways behind. So Brad Cox is going to have to basically go back to the drawing board with Sticker Shock, a filly that has some promise. She's a beautiful looking filly. Physically, she's a specimen, but she did not perform in the Fantasy this past Friday here at Oaklawn. Of course, the big day was on Saturday. We're going to start with the Temperance Hill Stakes, one of 4 races that were stakes races on the card. Here's the replay here. Parchment Party getting the job done here. Got a 94 buyer. 3-way driving finish. This horse looked like he was in a little bit of trouble down the backstretch. Thought this horse under Luis Saez was maybe using a little bit of energy down the backside to stay into it, but some of these distance marathon horses, this race was at 1.5 miles. They just grind, they go at the same rate, they go at the same speed, they grind, and they just keep going. Sometimes horses towards the end of these races, the ones that look like they're going better early, maybe if they're struggling to get the distance, maybe if they're just not as classy of a marathon horse as a horse like him, start to get a little bit tired, and then this horse just keeps going at the same speed and he outfinishes horses, and that was the case here in the Temperance Hill. Jokestar, the runner-up, very, very good effort from him in second. Now 4 for 7 on dirt alone, and Jokestar, a nice marathoner, not quite as good as Parchment Party. And the third place finisher, Ford Steele. He ran as good as he could have. A horse coming off an allowance win at Tampa Bay. This horse was up on the pace. There was no pace at all. He got everything his own way. He ran, again, as good as he could have. On paper, he didn't look like he was classy enough to defeat the top 2, and that was very much the case on the track. But I think the fact that he got everything his own way on the lead, perfect trip, it aided him the most out of anybody. And If there was a faster pace with pressure, he wouldn't have stuck around, but he ran well, and I'm sure Saffie Joseph had to at least be pleased with that third place finish, even though he did get a perfect trip. Given in terms of class, this horse just doesn't quite have the class that Parchment Party and Jokestar do. But Parchment Party, probably the first, maybe the last horse we'll ever see coming from the Melbourne Cup to here at Oaklawn for trainer Bill Mott. This horse actually won a race at Saratoga. He was eligible for the Melbourne Cup. They took a shot over there. Didn't work. Much tougher field than what he needs to see. But this is the right spot. 200 grander, Temperance Hill. Fit well in this race for Bill Mott, whose shippers have done really well here at Oaklawn this meet. Let's go to the 9th race on Saturday, Arkansas Derby Day, the American Pharoah Overnight Stakes. A son of American Pharoah winning this. Publisher, last year's runner-up in the Arkansas Derby. Boy, this horse here, he's finally figuring it out. 2 starts ago, this horse sort of pulled himself up on the lead a little bit and then re-rallied and won. This time around, he just went right by the runner-up finisher here, Echo again, who set a moderate pace and got things his own way on the lead. This horse doing good. I mean, he's not a grade 1 horse, I don't think, but at the same time, he's got a lot of talent. This horse is one of these horses that he's always around. There have been times where he's tried to pull himself up a little bit on the lead, as I mentioned, and he still runs races faster than most horses can run. So a very talented horse. He's won 3 in a row. Wouldn't be surprising if we saw him in the Lake Ouachita on closing weekend. That seems like a really good spot, in my opinion, for him, a 200 grander going 2 turns. But Publisher is a horse, I think, down the line, especially if he runs in that race and wins, we'll see him in a graded stake for trainer Steve Asmussen at some point. Race number 11, this was a really good race, the Oaklawn Mile. Let's take a look at this replay. Knew What's New, runner-up to Magnitude in the Razorback Handicap last time out. Really getting a nice setup here, close to the pace, and the pace was decent. Wasn't super speedy, and he was able to kick on and win the race here. Knew What's New in this race. Magnitude, we saw him last weekend in Dubai. He came back to win the Dubai World Cup on Saturday morning. So that form immediately flattered Knew What's New, and Knew What's New came back in the afternoon on Saturday to win this Oaklawn Mile. East Avenue, the runner-up finisher, a horse that was very exciting early on in his career as a younger horse. He was coming off a layoff, a little bit of an inconsistent horse. I thought he ran his best race, was the runner-up off that layoff for trainer Brendan Walsh. Let's take a look, though, at the favorite in this race at post time, Full Serrano, won the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile 2 years ago at Del Mar. He's number 5 here, and as you can see, basically spread eagles with the front legs here, just goes completely left front all the way to the left, right front all the way to the right, and he takes a bad stumble there. He lost all chance here at the break, was dead last after this, still rallied on down the lane, made an early move into the far turn, and he only finished about, 2 lengths behind the winner, 2.5, maybe 3. I think this horse was the best horse. Just a very unlucky trip. No disrespect to Knew What's New. We're not taking anything away from him. But I do think that Full Serrano with a very unlucky trip here in the Oaklawn Mile. I thought he was best. He got a good trip. If you were to break, get that good trip, I think he probably wins the race. So I think if we can see Full Serrano in a mile race next time against similar company, he's one you're going to want to watch out for, absolutely. After the Oaklawn Mile was race number 12. It wasn't a stake. It was a maiden special weight at 1 1/8 on the dirt. Here's the replay. Fleek from the Chris Hartman barn getting an 81 buyer for this. You know, this horse last time out didn't have the greatest trip. He sort of got squeezed between horses. Had to continuously make up ground little by little in his race 2 starts ago and made a wide run down the lane, ran 4th. This time he got a really good trip and really powered home for a nice win here. A son of Flat Out. This horse will run all day. I'm not saying he's like Parchment Party by any means in terms of running style, but I will say I think this horse has a bit of just sort of a steady running style that indicates distance is his friend. I don't know if Chris Hartman's going to wheel him back quickly in a race like the Bathhouse Row, which is a 2-turn race for 3-year-olds here in a couple weeks. But that's a possibility, I would think, if they're willing to wheel him back quickly. Fleek in this race beat, I thought, a pretty decent field of runners here and did it so decisively. So Fleek is a 3-year-old, a rising up-and-comer you're going to watch out for. Finally, race 13, the Arkansas Derby, the big one, $1.5 million here. Let's take a look at this replay here, and really the talk of the town, of course, was Renegade for Todd Pletcher, Irad Ortiz Jr. with the mount. Of course, Irad, we talked about him last week, hopping off Commandment to ride this horse here in Arkansas, and Commandment ran on Saturday as well. He won the Florida Derby, and watching this replay, now we all know why Irad stuck with Renegade. I mean, this horse, talk about a kick. I mean, Irad, hits him with the crop, and this horse just takes off. If you see, it's instantaneous, huge kick. He didn't get the greatest trip. I mean, Irad was very patient aboard this horse, but early on in the race, the pace was not fast at all. Slow fraction set by the front runner early, Redland Rebels, and he was happy to just take this horse towards the back, get him in a rhythm, turning for home. He got him outside in a clear path, and he just exploded down the lane, blew right by Southwest winner and Rebel runner-up Silent Tactic in this race. With this run in mind, Renegade checks all the boxes for me of a legit Kentucky Derby horse. Certainly can go the distance. He's got a kick. He's got some explosive run to him. He is very push button. He's a horse that you can put anywhere in the race. You can just basically get him in a rhythm, and then once he is able to kick on, and you ask him to kick on, he will do it no problem. He is a horse that has a good mind. He was really appropriate in the paddock, relaxed, taking everything in, versatile. I mean, everything, every box is checked for this horse to be a legit Kentucky Derby contender. And as far as I'm concerned, he's the Kentucky Derby favorite unless somebody in the Santa Anita Derby or the Bluegrass this week at Keeneland, somebody puts up a huge effort. They're going to have to if they want to outfinish this guy in the odds board come the first Saturday in May. This was a huge effort. It was a statement. Really, the storyline this year has been we have a very competitive crop of 3-year-olds in this Kentucky Derby picture, especially with Ted Naffy, the champion 2-year-old, on the sideline for bone bruising. This race was exactly what America and the world needed to see to find a Kentucky Derby favorite today at this point in time. Renegade checked those boxes. Silent Tactic, I feel like he's a horse. He ran second in the Arkansas Derby. I feel like he's a horse that his best race will come in a setup like the Southwest. Sits off a fairly fast pace, runs into it. This horse will go 1.25 miles. But his last race in the Arkansas Derby, his 2-back race in the Rebel, the fractions were not fast. He had to sit a little bit closer than he usually does. I would love to see this horse sit off a fast pace in the Kentucky Derby. And if that's the case, I think he can rally on and pass horses. Now, is he good enough to win? That is a question mark. He's going to have to really improve to turn the tables on a horse like Renegade if Renegade shows up on the first Saturday in May. But Silent Tactic is a horse that should like that 1.25 miles. Another very respectable run from him, and happy to see Christian Torres retain the mount in the Kentucky Derby per trainer Mark Cassie. He is a jockey here that has had a lot of success, obviously. It's good to see Christian get a mount in the big one, his first ever Kentucky Derby mount as well. So that was the Arkansas Derby. Let's talk about this week's races. We've got 4 key races we want to key in on. Thursday through Saturday racing, Sunday's Easter. So once again, like last week, just Thursday through Saturday, first post each day. We're going to 12:45 now here at Oaklawn beginning this week. Let's talk about the 8th race on Thursday, the feature race on this program. It's an allowance for 3-year-old fillies at 6 furlongs. Here's the field. This will be interesting. One horse in here I want to note, Mow 'Em Down, number 5, who's the 5-2 second choice on the morning line. She broke her maiden at Churchill by 9, placed second in the Grade 3 Sereno as a 2-year-old at Del Mar in her next start. We haven't seen her in 7.5 months. She is entered in a race in California, and she's been training there. So I have not gotten word if she's a definitive scratch. She could ship here for Peter Miller and opt to run in this race as the purse is bigger. Wouldn't surprise me, but I would think if she's training in California, not here at Oaklawn, I would think that she could very well scratch in favor of that race in California. So just keep that in mind on Thursday morning. Scratch time, we'll look and see if she decides to run here and ships here to Hot Springs or whether she stays in California. The morning line favorite, 9-5 on the morning line here, Little Miss Curlin, Louisiana bred. Here's the replay. She's a 3-time Louisiana State Bred Stakes winner, and this is her last win against State Breds. Now, in Louisiana, HISA rules are not applied because Louisiana is not a HISA state. HISA, of course, our regulatory body here in North America. So she actually could run on Lasix in this race. HISA tracks if you are in a state or a track that is HISA regulated. In stakes races, you are not allowed to run on Lasix. That is not the case in Louisiana. She actually exits a 4th place finish in the Dixie Belle Stakes against Open Company last time out without Lasix. She's back on Lasix in this allowance spot here today, and she is sprinting in this spot. She's the one to beat. Her numbers suggest with the Lasix, with those Louisiana races, she ran much faster than she did in the Dixie Belle. So if she runs back to her best races on numbers, she's the fastest filly in the race, and she is the one to beat. I do think that a runner that finished ahead of her in the Dixie Belle, Have Faith, is interesting for Dallas Stewart, 4-1 on the morning line. She's also entered in this race. And let's not forget Brienne's, a filly that's actually got some decent pedigree. She's number 4 in this race, 8-1 on the morning line. Let's take a look at her maiden win here. She showed a decent kick in the mornings in a past workout on Oaklawn.com and outworked a couple of stablemates that are claiming types of horses themselves. So she didn't beat much in the mornings, but she looked good doing it. And she pulled off this nice first out winner for trainer Danny Pish. She's a half to stakes winner, Miss Justify. So there's some pedigree here. Brienne's maybe with that run under her belt, she might even be able to take a step forward in lifetime start number 2. She's number 4 in this race for the Pish stable. Ramon Vasquez has the call. Good allowance race for sprinters, 3-year-old fillies. That's the 8th race on Thursday. We turn our attention to Friday afternoon. Race number 9 is the feature race of the day, the Rainbow Mist Stakes. Here's the field for Arkansas-bred 3-year-old fillies in this race at 6 furlongs. And the morning line maker here indicating that the top 2 choices in the wagering probably will get significantly bet in this race. Even money on the morning line for Walk Away K, also trained by Danny Pish. Speaking of the Pish barn, and let's take a look at her last replay here. She ran 4th in the Mockingbird Stakes against Open Company and exits a key allowance race for state-bred allowance foes in against Older that day. The race winner, one way or another, returned to win a starter allowance against Open Company. And the 3rd place finisher, Miss Macy, returned to win a state-bred allowance against Older. As you see late in the replay here, Walk Away K really had a nice kick in the final 20 yards or so when Eric Asmussen really got busy on her and galloped out good. I like the finish that she showed in this race. It looked like she was sort of plotting in place a little bit in mid-stretch, and then that final burst, she showed a nice kick. So in against Arkansas breds, in against restricted 3-year-old fillies. It's a big, big help for her. Going against Older to restricted 3-year-old fillies. She is 100% the horse to beat in this race. I do think number 1, Cut a Cutie, is a little bit interesting. The second choice in the morning line at 9-5. She's one that dueled in the lead at very fast fractions before getting tagged late in a state-bred allowance against Older runners. Dueled, set very fast fractions, and was the only one out of the early speed brigade to stick around. Good effort. There's not going to be as much pace in this race, and just like Walk Away K, she's coming off an Older race and against restricted 3-year-old fillies. So on paper, I think these are the 2 to beat in this race. Walk Away K, Cut a Cutie, draws the rail. She's going to be sent out of there hard in this race. We go to the 9th race on Saturday. 2 races to discuss on Saturday afternoon. The first of them, it's a big field. It's a ratings handicap race. We've seen quite a few of these run at Oaklawn this season. Here's the field of 11 in here. I've said it before, I always like fillies and mares when they start showing really good form and they keep that form up, and that is the case with the outside horse in here. All the way post 11, Miss Arlington in this race for trainer Steve Asmussen, who claimed her 4 or 5 starts ago, and she's won 2 in a row. Here's her last race. I mean, she just ran a hole in the wind against this field. She was clearly best in this spot. I like the outside post in this sprint because, especially in a big field, you can look inside, see what others are doing, and go from there. She seems like a pretty versatile mare, older mare here now that really has had good success in her last couple of starts. Very push button in her last race. I think there are a lot of things to like about this mare, and there's reason to believe that for Steve Asmussen, if she runs her race, as we've seen her last couple starts, she's going to be right there against this field. I will say, though, she's not the class of the race. The one to beat, arguably, is the class, number 8, Blue Squall. She's hit the board in a couple of salty allowance races at this meeting, and you can make a strong argument she finds a little bit easier company in this ratings handicap type of race. Dream Concert for Al Stahl. She's number 4 in this race, 9-2 on the morning line. She ran well at this level last time out at a ratings handicap condition and only finished a half length behind Delachina, number 2, in that race She's in this spot from post 2. A 29-1 upset winner that day. Really reversed form that afternoon at a price. She's also entered in this ratings handicap. So it's a good field of ratings handicap, hard-knocking filly and mare sprinters in this race. That's race number 9 on the 11-race program on Saturday. And then finally race 10 on Saturday. One race later, about a half hour in time, we go to the feature race, the Rainbow Stakes for 3-year-old colts and geldings, Arkansas breds. Of course, it's for 3-year-olds, so if you really wanted to, if you had a filly and you wanted to run them against boys, suppose you could. But everybody entered in this race is for colts and geldings. The morning line favorite is Stroll's Mischief, number 1, 2-1 on the morning line. And for good reason. This runner first time out went to the lead at a massive price for a field of, I think, 9 or 10 that day. 26-1. This is a big price for first-time starter for Dwayne Loy, and just kept going here for the Dwayne Loy barn. What I like about this runner is not only does this horse have speed and showed that he can carry it, but that last race was on the wet going, and the forecast calls for rain. And more than an inch of rain. We're going to get plenty of rain on Saturday. The track is going to be wet, so we know, unlike a few others in here, this horse will be just fine over the wet going. That is something to note. I like the last race from number 4, Instamania, who's 7-2 on the morning line, was the runner-up on debut last time and finished behind Stroll's Mischief. Did not break particularly great, was off slowly, maybe a little bit far behind than they anticipated, but came with a nice run down the lane, really passed horses nicely, leveled off, and came with a good effort and with a good gallop out. With a better break, a run under the belt, maybe Instamania can improve. 70s Music, number 8, interesting contender, one of 3 runners in this race for trainer Randy Morrison, owned, bred, and trained by Randy. This runner here is wheeling back in just 7 days. This horse ran on Arkansas Derby Day, and the finale had to wait till about 7:20 or so p.m. to see this horse run. First 2 races were on the wet going. Didn't run as well. He got to a fast track, and here's the replay of that. I think the replay speaks for itself. You see a big horse here for an Arky bred especially. Runaway win for him here. He ran terrific in this race. Now the weather, again, is a question. With a wet track, this horse ran twice on the wet going earlier in the meet, and he did not run nearly as well as when he ran on the fast track last week. But this is a rare opportunity against restricted Arkansas breds, the Rainbow, the top race for sprinting Arkansas bred 3-year-olds every year. I don't think the track condition is going to scare Randy to take a shot with this horse, and who knows, maybe this horse's light bulb is just turned on in that last race, and maybe he can run effectively on the wet going. Past performances doesn't say that he's going to be best on the wet going, but you never know. I'm sure he is going to run wheeling back in a week. I don't mind horses that wheel back in a week, by the way. My thought on it is horses that wheel back quickly, they're fit, they're ready, and a lot of times they're on the muscle too. Just coming off a race, they come back quickly to the races, they're ready to run again. I think the key there is you have to know which horses you can wheel back quickly. Some horses, they may need more time between races. And the other key is you want to wheel a horse back quickly and give them some rest after a while. You don't want them to keep wheeling back quickly. So you can do this once, maybe even twice. You don't want to do it too often. In a situation like this, the wheel back in a week is not a concern for me. The question will be, I don't even think that this horse question is if he's good enough. I think that last race showed physically he passed the eye test. He's probably very much good enough to run very well in a race like this. The question will be the track surface. Finally, we have gone through all our recaps. Time to give out a clocker pick here. Race number 6 on Thursday, Blondie's in charge, number 9. We're doing something a little bit different here. 10-1 on the morning line drawn outside. Here's the workout of the gate on February 13th. That's right. This workout was a while ago, and I haven't seen a work on the portal since this workout for this runner. But I thought this horse, I watched this horse's workout when they first posted it in February, really got a good feel that this filly has some ability here. I know this work was from a while back again, but I want to note how she's going here. Abel Cedillo, he's going to ride in this race on Thursday. He's aboard in this work. She just seems very naturally quick and speedy. She's on a hold here the whole way around. He doesn't ask her for anything close to her best. And it's worth noting that last time out in her first race, she didn't break well. She rushed up, got a little bit aggressive when they were trying to ration her speed after rushing up, and then she faded down the lane. Lindsay Schultz trains. Lindsay is the type of conditioner that, just on numbers alone, her horses improve second out. She does not crank horses up 100% all the time to win first time out. And when you think about the trip that she had last time, I think this work, yes, it wasn't a recent workout, but it indicates to me that she's got some ability. She draws an outside post. Hopefully she breaks better. She's going to get a good trip. This workout is not showing you recently that she's worked well, unlike a lot of other works of the week I've shown you. This work is showing you that she's got some ability, she's got some speed, and I think that freshening up since her last race, she's had a number of quick works leading up to this second lifetime start. She was in a maiden optional claimer last time. Now she's protected in maiden special weight company. I don't usually pick horses that make that move. I think it's a pretty difficult bump up in class. But this filly was not purchased for much. Another angle I like, when you see a filly or a horse, a younger horse that's not purchased for a lot of money, could be entered in a maiden claiming condition, and financially that would make sense. Instead, the connections are protecting her in this tougher maiden special weight. They must like how she's doing. I think there's things to like at a price here with Blondies in charge. That does it for another edition of Out of the Starting Gate. I'm Matt Dinerman here, and remember, next week is going to be a big week for us. Apple Blossom Handicap. I'm going to have a special guest signed on for next week here on the desk with me. It'll be a surprise. You'll see next week. But have a great Thursday through Saturday of racing, everybody, and we'll see you next week for another edition of Out of the Starting Gate.